All right, so welcome everybody. Thank you very much for joining us today for this Nanext Live workshop. What we will be covering today is specifically AI, its uses in finance, and why AI has a potential impact on how finance operation can start being automating or how it impacts automation in that space. Couple of things before we get started. As usual, for those who don't know us, a quick introduction. So my name is Piv. My name is Pierre, but people call me Piv. I am one of the co-founders of 9x. You can find us at go9x.com. We are basically training business people on how to use AI. And we believe that AI and automation are the most important skills that you can learn right now as a business professional, which is why we're on a mission to bring these skills on a silver platter to you. Know that that is who we are and what we do, but in terms of how we do it, I'm happy to share that what we are able to do for people is basically we have courses. We have 3 courses. We will share the link to these courses in the chat. Basically, for the AI starter is the introduction level to how to get started with AI. It's not available yet, but you can join the waitlist. We have the AI operator, which is basically the level of AI literacy that anybody inside of an organization can use. It's basically the how to use an AI chat, how to prompt, what are the good practices when using AI, and you can enroll right now. And the AI builder is in case you want to build more advanced solutions for AI automations. For finance operations, maybe, I'm not sure. We'll discuss that right away with Jonas, but this is basically the good way to get started on how to build and how to automate with AI. Another thing, next week, I'll be joined again, but this time by Core Shuttle, which is an automation expert, and he will be sharing with us how he is leveraging AI for knowledge work by using tools which are more intended for coding, like Claude, MCP, and GitHub, and then also using codified knowledge, and a very interesting approach on how to leverage these to do knowledge work. So if you're interested by the topic, make sure to register for the next event. Last pieces of advertisement. If you're interested with all the topics that we are discussing at 9x or that we will be discussing today, we are going big on YouTube this year. So if you want to stay up to date on what's going on in the AI automation space, our channel is where we share free AI and automation tutorials, live demos, workshops, recording like this one, and potential reaction to the news. Not only the AI and automation news, nothing to do with the general news. We publish each week, it's free, so feel free to subscribe. Now, what we want to touch on today, basically there are 3 main things that I want us to explore. First, why AI in finance and why now? Then how AI can unlock automation for finance operation. And finally, how Recap built an AI-powered finance platform. And for this, today we have with us Jonas Tebbe, co-founder and CPO of Recap. And maybe, Jonas, if you don't mind, can you give a quick introduction about who you are, what's your background, and why you are here with us today?
So thanks for having me. Exciting topic that I enjoy a lot, given that I'm the product person at Recap. Back in the days, I would say I studied computer science and business management, and then directly after university, I, together with the other co-founders, directly started to fund and build fintech ventures. Back then, especially technically, the world looked a bit different still, and things were a bit more painful still. But yeah, we are now in that space for more than 10 years and currently building out Recap as our venture that we have started in 2021. We'll explain later on what we do to be more precise. I'm, as I said, the product guy, so focused on all things digital and how to run finance and funding in a digital world. So much about me.
Awesome. So let's get started. Let me start by setting the stage a bit with what I call, let's say, the finance paradox when it comes to AI and automation. If you look at what finance teams are actually doing day in, day out, part of it is actually incredibly administrative work, like processing documents, categorizing transaction, linking and matching invoices. This is literally the perfect use case for AI automation. But the paradox is that maybe due to the sensitivity of the data, finance teams are often the most reluctant to actually implement AI solution. Or so far, we didn't see a big uptake of automation inside of the finance operation process. Now, that's understandable because finance is not just about moving data around. You need to integrate with the banking system. Compliance is a big topic. You need to connect to accounting platforms, which are not the most forward thinking when it comes to technology and APIs. And things needs to be very precise and work reliably. So not really the best landscape for experimenting your own tools and building ad hoc solutions. Jonas, you founded several fintech companies. How have you seen AI impacting the industry over the recent years? And do you think things exist today that people didn't have access to before that would potentially challenge the status quo and open up opportunities, especially in the finance and operations world?
Yeah, definitely. If I look back 5 or 10 years, I would maybe simply put it as back then it was possible to automate very structured processes. Right now with AI, mainly it's possible to forget about the workflow and just get the result. This is how I would put it very simply. And to break it down a bit, like back then, what was possible is if you have a very refined and defined set of rules, that with that you automate something. You say, if this happens, then do that, the classical Zapier approach. And the same goes for data processing. If a bank transaction has I don't know, Lufthansa in it, it is travel costs. But the downside of that is you have to manage like a very big set of rules and it doesn't adapt, it doesn't learn, right? The minute something new pops up in your data, it just breaks. And this changed. Like right now, you can just rather define context and guidelines and provide that to the models, and then they will, if you do it right, provide you just with a result. And that just is a very, very big lever. And for us, for me, and if I compare that to the past, it's completely different world. And maybe to other aspects, also with that, the tooling has changed a lot. If I look back and look, for example, at extracting information from invoice PDFs. Back then, we had OCR tools, super big industry around that, expensive, complex to set up. And in the end, the results okay-ish. And now you literally just throw an invoice into a generic LLM and the results are better. Like basically the whole industry vanished and there's just much more tooling that you can use if you use it right. And the last point, and there I would say for the other points, it's rather like an exponential development in the last couple of years, especially. But also data access is improving, unfortunately, rather in a more linear fashion. So open banking is getting better and better. Unfortunately a bit slower than everything else, but also like traditional accounting tools release APIs. All of that was not available 10 years ago. So I would say right now it's already a game changer compared to the past, but we are still, I would say, when it comes to AI specifically, super early in the process of finding like the right tools and making them really work, especially in areas where data security is important, where in general accuracy is important, like in finance. So for me, it feels like the real fun starts now, and now we are at a point where something can really change fundamentally.
100% agreed.
But maybe also switching around, I mean, you work with a lot of companies on those topics. What do you see like as the big struggles and challenges in getting AI and automation in finance right?
Yeah, I think you nailed it in your description. There's the question about first, is the infrastructure there? Obviously, when you work with SaaS products, most of us know it's kind of a table stake. You will have an API because a lot of people realize the more you can integrate that into your tech stack, the better, and the more chance you have of getting sticky. This is not something that typically the finance stack had to do. Most of the systems are there because, like, if you look at the German landscape, you can't really do finance operation without working around DATEV. Like almost everybody is using that. It's just every Steuerberater is using the platform. So you kind of have to work with it. And they're in such a position, there's no big pressure for them to develop APIs. And, they're not even in the cloud. Like I think I was discussing today with someone who's also in the fintech space. data will be fully in the cloud by 2029. When you're in a space where you don't even have, a cloud premises, and biggest share of your customer are using you on premise, you're not even talking about API integration. You don't have to. So I think that's one of the biggest challenge that people were facing, is just the current landscape didn't allow for integration. And then I can also understand that, banking institutions were a bit reluctant to just open API endpoints. And, if somebody just loses their credentials, they may open up, too much access and capabilities. So there's a security issue for sure.
Yeah, makes sense. Good to see that Datev is moving now. Unfortunately, it takes a while, but yeah, definitely get it. One point you also mentioned is that there, especially in finance, you see a line between building your own solutions and buying something from the market. There, I would also be interested to get a bit more background how you see that, how that develops for you.
Yeah, so I think what's really interesting is you would think, well, actually, it is extremely rule-based. Like everything you have to do with financial processes, you have documents that you need to process, you need to treat. So for me, I saw this because I'm also I'm an advanced and automation user. I spend my days in there, and also as a co-founder of 9x, I'm the one in charge of all the finance and administrative part of things. So I figured, okay, there's no way I'm going to process this manually, everything. And also it's a tricky part because when you're a small team, I can't really give, anyone else in the organization who's not a founder access to the whole, financials of the company. So I needed to build a system. I didn't want to make it manually. So I started playing around with Airtable and Make, and using the Conto API, using the Stripe API, because, all of our invoicing in Stripe. So we had a relatively, the setup was there and our stack was very digital. So I thought, okay, we can build this ourselves. And then I started just, syncing all my bank transaction in one table. Then I tried to build, okay, syncing all the invoices. But eventually, if you want, what you want to do with finance operation, it's a mix of a spreadsheet kind of UI, a table database kind of applications. You want very straightforward automations. But sometimes, for some reason, you have a restaurant bill where sometimes that's a Reisekosten, so it's a travel expense, and sometimes it's a Bewertung, so it's more of a customer or marketing expense. And it was difficult to actually build myself the solution, and I would end up spend more time actually fixing the solution than getting insights from it. So eventually, that was the main driver. I realized, I think for this specific use cases, you need to move to vertical AI automation. So you need to wait for somebody to actually build something that is reliant, robust, and will work all the time, because the problems are very specialized, but you really need a high level of robustness. When you're looking to your financials, I had cases where I was sitting with my co-founders, where I was preparing a meeting to sit with them, but then, I need 5 hours or I need 4 hours to fix the automation. I can't tell you what the current status of the finances are because the system is broken. And this is not something that can happen. You want to open it and go in there and be able to get the insight that you need.
Yeah, to all of that, I can relate a lot. It will look like in my part after that we have talked about it, and I've adjusted my points based on yours, but not the case actually. But yeah, totally agree.
Maybe one question I asked for you, because if we look at Recap, you actually the initial product, it was like a lending, I think you call this non-dilutive financing, so revenue-based lending. It's fintech, but it's pretty far away from finance operations. Why actually did you decide to get involved with that topic, and what was the trigger there?
Yeah, I have to start a bit earlier. So before we even started Recap, the trigger that motivated us is we saw a lot of due diligence processes, a lot of company funding rounds, and how people evaluate companies. And ultimately, it always nailed down to looking at Excel sheets, at PowerPoints. And we were of the opinion that in this world, you shouldn't assess a company and run a company based on Excel sheets, PowerPoints, and outdated data anymore. And this is when we got started to like, are there actually new data sources that you can grab in real time? Can you process the data automatically? And what can you do with it? So the start of Recap was really like software FinOps focused. And then we decided as a first product that we put out in the market to build a debt funding solution, because a lot of tech companies especially need funding to fuel their growth and to reach their goals. And for us, it was the perfect way of validating basically the approach that based on this data, you can run better decisions and run companies. And after we have launched that, and we started to go basically back to the start and then actually build like or provide the software that we've internally built to other companies to let them run their financial operations, their finance based on the same software. So from the outside, it might look like we have started only with a funding product initially, but actually it was always the idea to build this digital platform to run basically all your capital operations. And now we are finally at the stage where everything comes together and this platform as a whole really is there and can be used across all aspects.
Can you maybe show us, because there's a couple of questions in the chat actually on where does actually AI come and where does it add value? Like besides, processing documents, what are the different elements where actually injecting AI in the finance operation process is actually, providing additional value and unlocking some potential possibilities? I think you have prepared a couple of things around the framework around that. Can you share that?
Yeah, sure. Can share that. So I will split it into parts. Like first, I will explain a couple of conceptual ideas that we use that I think are important when automating finance. And then I will show how we apply that on all platforms. So it will always be 50-50, like explaining general concepts and showing how we do it at Recap. So I can't take a bit of advertising out of it, but if I really want to show how it works in practice, I need to show our solution. So maybe starting with the most basic concept that we at Recap also employ a lot. And what we say is that we built the capital operating system for tech companies in Europe. So it basically is a platform that allows you to run all your capital decisions that you need to manage and grow your company and ultimately get to the point where you want to be. And everything basically is centered around the financial data. For every decision, for every aspect of it, you need financial data. You need to understand your cash position, your cash flow based on bank account transactions. You need to have your invoices, accounts payable, accounts receivable in the system to see like how future cash flow is looking like, to prepare data for other external parties, and you have to look at other different data sources such as accounting data, etc. So everything always is built around your financial data, and that powers everything. And then when looking at what you do with your financial data in the context of managing your capital, your cash, is divided in 3 steps, how we usually explain it: analyzing, forecasting, and executing. I will come back to that in a second and explain a bit more detail what exactly is hidden behind those steps. But maybe once again, iterating on the point of how I see what's currently, unfortunately, still the status quo when it comes to automation in finance, is that a lot, and you actually explained it before, a lot of companies, and I'm talking a lot, most companies, I would actually say, still lack visibility. Like they still have a lot of data scattered around in different tools, a lot of manual works to grab the data, process the data, and processes into insights. And ultimately, you don't have a real-time view of your cash, of your performance, of your capital needs. And also because of that, you can't really forecast nicely what will happen, how different things will turn out. And that leads then to you always running behind and reacting instead of like proactively steering your business and working towards your goals. And that might sound a bit generic, but that's actually like the core of your business, right? If you make your financial and operational decisions based on guesswork or outdated data, like you are losing a lot of like potential and to go or to reach the goals that you want to reach. And even if you get there, there's so much efficiency and potential lost on the track. So this is, unfortunately still what I see a lot, and what we are trying to fix with our platform, and what we bring into one integrated platform. And with that, coming a bit back to the different steps. So when thinking about finance and automation, I think three different steps are important. First of all, you need to analyze and monitor. You need to understand, where am I right now? How does my cash position look like? How's my cash flow looking like? How efficient am I? Do I need how I'm using financing products, etc. And that's always the basis. And if you have that, then you should use the same data and the same basis to basically forecast and model what's going to happen. So what's going to happen if I invest here and there? What if this happens? Like if you have a proper understanding of where you stand, how your performance is currently looking like, you can use that to model financial plans, and then see how decisions that you made or will make will affect your business overall. And then the last part is actually executing those decisions. Those decisions can be operational, can be like further investing in growth, can be focusing on profitability, but can also be operational processes, like how I manage collaboration with external parties, or can be financing decisions, like do I need additional capital? How does my capital stack look like, and executing those initiatives. And basically, as soon as you do that, you directly go back to step one. You then have executed an initiative, and then you need to see and monitor, does it work? If it works, fine. If it doesn't work, then I need to reforecast again and see, okay, what do I need to adjust? Then I need to execute what I have reforecasted, and then starting back at zero again. So it's basically always a constant circle, and where you should think about, how do I manage my capital, and where, in which areas do I have already automation, and how especially those fit together, right? It's pretty much worthless if you like create a plan and that you are then not able to monitor, right? Then you create a plan, and then stuff happens and you cannot track if it works out or not. So you really need to focus on like unifying those things, and always thinking about the process as a whole. When I then go to some tooling and the landscape, of course, this is just a very, very brief excerpt of some tools in the market, right? There are like a lot of tools, also a lot of good tools in the market in different areas. You can look at rather cash liquidity management tools, Argicap, Atla, that rather focus on short-term things. You can have long-term FP&A tools, so-called, where you model your whole business plan, including a lot of different data sources like Mosaic, Abacum, or you have tools like that are focused on more accounting, end of month closing, reporting topics like Safdesk, Lexware. In all of those areas, you will find very good tools that go very deep in that area. What we try as Recap is rather to have like one solution that covers all the aspects of the cycle that I've shown before. And of course, that means that we don't go as deep in every step as others do. But for us, we believe that it's really important to like think about this unified cycle and building automation along that whole cycle. So I would say so much about theory, and then maybe let me jump into the actual solution to show how that looks like and what we specifically do. And I will explain and show a couple of concepts and features now. Theoretically, you can build them all in different ways and on your own. I'm happy if you do so. It's a lot of work, I can assure you. But putting a bit to work what I just said. And starting with financial data. So, for example, I explained before, we put a lot of different data sources in the platform, bank accounts, where we get the transactions and cash flows from, invoice data, revenue data, some accounting data. And with all of those aspects, the whole platform is built with an automation first angle. So instead of configuring something, having an onboarding, adjusting everything, it always works out of the box. So, for example, if you connect your bank account, it's like a matter of seconds, literally, to collect it. We will automatically extract the data from it, meaning all transactions, all cash flows, and we will also, using AI models, categorize this data. So, for example, telling, okay, there is a Slack and Notion transaction. This is IT costs, or somebody paid LinkedIn a bill that relates to marketing costs, etc. So instead of having to grab all this data, you get it directly processed by the platform, so that this step directly vanishes. And so it always works out of the box. But at every point of time, you can always customize everything, and the models learn based on the customization. So we put the transactions, for example, by default in different standard categories, but you can always say, okay, for me, it's important to see banking fees, for example, as a separate category. And then you can define a category, and once, say, I don't know, all Konto transactions, they are actually banking fees, and tell this the model. And then the model basically learns from this new categorization, and in the future will apply that automatically, so that you don't need to correct it. So this is basically how we process data, and this is how it works for all the different data sources. Let's take, for example, invoices as another data source. You can automatically import them on the platform by just forwarding to your individual mail, or right now for the demo, I will just upload some manually. And then I'm actually coming back to my OCR example. We directly process and analyze all those invoices and grab all the information from the invoice, like taxes, counterparties, etc., from it. And the nicest part is, when you have the different data sources on one platform, you can put them all directly in context. So, for example, I can see here I have a Slack invoice, and we have automatically found a bank account transaction that relates to this invoice. So we directly know, okay, this invoice was actually already paid, and you can say, yeah, that's the right one, and it can be reconciled automatically. And then I will show that later on. It's already matched if you want, for example, send that data to your tax advisor. So that's basically the aspect around the financial data. So all the data gets imported, processed automatically using an AI. And of course, we invest a lot of time in making those models work precisely and nicely. And it is actually a lot of work. It's not that we only use AI. We also combine that with a rule-based engine, because certain things work just better with rules. So there's a lot happening in the background, and for you to ultimately get this experience in the end. And then moving to the actual cycle steps, first one, analysis. So what we then do is that we automatically in real time basically aggregate all the different data, raw data points into like high level insights. How much cash do I have right now? How did my cash flow develop? How profitable am I cash wise? How's my runway looking like? And then you can basically go deeper and deeper into all the different reports and statements. And because we have all the raw data, you can go up until the point where you say, okay, show me what IT costs occurred in April 25, and then you see the individual transactions here. So this is basically how we always go from like raw data point until high level insight, and allow you always to go through the whole chain to basically find out how or why certain things moved in a certain direction. And that's just like a small portion of it. There are other insights for different areas of the business where we do the same. But I think also looking at time, that's a good point now to move on to the second step, which is then forecasting. And this is basically where we employ the same data, the same structure from before. So you will see the same categories that you have anyways already defined, and then you can see with an automatically generated forecast, like how based on your historic performance, your here in this case, for example, cash flow and liquidity will develop. And you can also go deeper and fine tune how, for example, you want to forecast certain elements of your business, or say like what happens if I don't know, invest 1 million in marketing here in a certain month, and then do that on a continuous basis. How does that affect my cash basis and my forecast? So basically the method is always using the same data structure, the same logic, and here focusing on forecasting and planning. Here, especially in that area, we will release a quite big update very soon to enhance the capabilities in that area a lot. And then moving to the last part, of course, we have our own debt funding solution. So if you realize you need capital, you can actually get it for us. That's not so much the focus right now, but we can directly give you access to additional capital if you need it. But you can also execute other processes and workflows on the platform, such as, for example, the end of month book closing process, where we take all the data automatically and put it together and give you a dashboard and say, okay, at the end of every month, you always need for every bank transaction an invoice, and we tell you basically how complete your month already is. And then you can see, okay, here I have the 3 invoices I've already uploaded a second ago, and we found bank account transactions for them. So like for this process with our automation, and what you normally would do is you send your tax advisor your bank account statement, and then he sends you back an Excel list telling, okay, this invoice is missing. And then you ask your colleague, okay, where's this invoice? And then they send the invoice to you, you send it back, and he comes back with the next question. And this process we are basically eliminating, and you directly see here, okay, we have found matches for those transactions, and that those you can directly map, and you're all good with them then. And for other in for the other parts where you see, for example, okay, here are 140 positions, transactions still missing. You can either then manually upload the invoices, or you can also from the platform directly ask your colleagues about the invoices and send them here a notification. For example, you just say basically this is like the bank account transaction, and I want I want to notify somebody, and then they get a mail automatically requesting that invoice from them. So this is a bit what we do in the execution area, where you execute initiatives and financing measures and financial operations processes. But as you can see, basically along all the different steps of the platform, always automation. And I'm not a fan of always saying AI, but ultimately, to a large extent, AI is what drives everything. That's what we do, and how we think about the AI automation topic in finance at the moment. If you ask me personally, this is just like really the start of it, but I think it explains quite well how like what we build is automation first, and instead of like defining a rule set of how you map transactions to categories, we go like AI first and fully focus on that part, and just completely basically ditch the old methodology and way of thinking.
Yeah, and that's really interesting because, in the end, when I look at your product, it is, as you said, it's mostly automation, but it's just a bit of AI to enhance more automation at very specific and very strategic moments of the value chain. How do you, I guess, how do you make sure that these AI steps are 1% exactly what you want it to be? How do you, balance the fact that some of the things should be rule-based, and in some cases there are some exceptions. You need to be able to to exclude them from the learning. How do you also put guards to make sure that there's like no, people have been asking about hallucinations. Like, how specific is it and how different as a product person to work on such a product that has AI, as part of the powering technology of the whole workflow?
Yeah. So of course, my vision, coming back to the bookkeeping process, is that ultimately you have an AI agent that does everything. Like, meaning he collects, or it or whatever collects all the bank transactions, ask a certain employees for the invoices, then matches them, and then directly sends that data to the tax advisor, so that the whole process is completely gone. But especially in finance, you need to do it step by step to have like still some control over the workflow. And then as your solution, as your own models improve, you can allow for more automation. So technically, we could already do what I've described so far, but we know that the models are not yet perfect enough to risk basically automating everything. And this is why we at the moment rather say, okay, we show you the automatic message, we automate the asking for an invoice, but rather with a button click still needed. And then we move iteratively along more automation and more autonomy, so to say. And this is needed because everything is quite complex, unfortunately, like mapping the bank account transactions to categories. This, like, 80% is easy, and then 20% are very hard, but you need this 20% in finance. Like, for example, if you get a financing round, this is what typically models would do. Like, if you just let the LLM untrained, unspecified run, you get a financing round in 1 million of capital, and then it would say, oh, nice, a lot of money comes in, that's revenue. And if you just let that run, in your cash flow statement, you will see, oh yeah, we have made 1 million revenue and we are super profitable. And exactly the opposite is the case, right? So you didn't make that revenue and it's financing cash flow. That is something very different. And this is exactly what you have to improve and work on and get really right, to then allow for more, as I said, autonomy. And that helps us, of course, to like see different use cases, different types of companies, and in a fully anonymized way, and to like build up like a data pool that you can use to cross-check. And it doesn't even stop there. We have actual people sitting in the company checking test data sets and checking the performance of the models and finding out in which specific areas they work or they don't work. And that's just not work you should do as like a company alone. If you do that, then you can directly go for Excel again, because it's the same the same effort in the end, or even less. So yeah, this is a bit how we handle that.
Awesome. We have a couple of questions already from the chat. You mentioned that you're working with different like type of companies. Who's the ICP for your product?
Yeah, so tech companies in Europe, simply said. So every company of the digital economy can be software startups, hardware startups, can be e-commerce, everything that is tech related. The solutions we build also work for other companies, but this is really the subset of companies we focus on, because we know their needs best. So for example, for a lot of companies in that area, runway is a topic, and calculating runway automatically is quite complex. And this is why we spend quite some time getting that as right or as good as possible. And so, yeah, if you want to name the ICP, it's tech companies in Europe.
Okay. We see there's a lot of built-in integrations that you offer to integrate different banking solution, but also revenue. Like you can connect Stripe, you can connect a lot of different tools. Do you have also an open API that people can use if they want to push some information from system that you don't have built-in integration to?
Yeah, we have an API that we built internally for ourselves. Basically, all our apps use that API, and that API can also be used by other external parties. It's like, I would say, in an early stage right now, but yeah, we have it, can be used, and it's also that we see growing demand for that. And ultimately, we don't care about like which interface companies use to us, if it is like the web UI or if it is an API or whatsoever. And because what we are about is like wrangling the data.
Okay. Somebody actually was asking specifically about the API that it's still in beta. What's the plan there what's on the roadmap for the API? Do you want to allow more things to be possible to be added to the API, or can you share a bit about what's coming next there?
In just on the API part, or in general for the company as a whole? Yeah, so we are basically, as I said, we have like our own API where we are planning to make that like the standard part of our offering. And then the other part of API or integrations is that we constantly try to build new integrations to like specialized payment tools, to specialized banks. And I mean, unfortunately, the landscape there is basically endless, literally. So we are always trying to catch up. But yeah, this is also a focus of ours.
And for the company, what's on the roadmap? Are you planning to add other parts of the bookkeeping process, for example, or what's the plan?
Yeah, so basically in everything that you've seen so far, we extend and improve continuously, like all the insights that you get on the cash flow side, having more tools to control your cash flow, like for example defining a certain cash buffer that you want to keep and then being alerted if it goes above beyond. Same for runway. So those would be like rather in the execute area where we like employ new tools and everything existing we improve, also in the bookkeeping area, etc. And then we are working on one very nice topic that is right now rather in the technical validation phase, which we call AI-based guidance. And there I have to use the buzzword. And what we see is that a lot of people, even though they have access to all the insights on the platform, to the reports, to the data, they still struggle to put it in context and derive action out of it. And in that area, we are building, so to say, a custom LLM that allows companies to interact with their data directly. And for example, not so that they do not, for example, have to log in and see, okay, my cash is down, what happens, but that they directly get the guidance. And for example, you are 200,000 euros behind plan. And this is because last week there was a big AWS invoice that you paid that was 100K, and there was another marketing spend that wasn't occurred here, that wasn't planned for. Here are the invoices, and check what's going on. If you want to, we can reforecast. This is how ultimately I think you should interact with your data. And but to be able, again, it's moving in iterations and building up something over time. To be able to do something like that, you first need the cleaned up data, you need the underlying reports, and then you can put more intelligence on top to work with that. You can't tell an LLM, yeah, here are all my bank account transaction, explain me how I should run my company. Then you will just end up with a very vague, wrong, random statement. So yeah, in that area we are doing a lot right now. Can't show it publicly yet, but we will be talking and showcasing that to a couple of people in the next month.
Awesome. Somebody asked, lots of people already have finance system like Xero, QuickBooks, etc. Could they use Recap to just bolt on to their existing data so that they get insight and reporting? So just use Recap to consume that data and just use all the functionality you showed us?
Yeah, correct. We are never trying to replace your bank account or your core accounting tool. We are always a layer on top. So we have a couple integrations there. But whenever an integration is not there, like a fully automated one, you can always upload the data manually. And we have like a wizard, import wizard for that again. So yeah, we are not trying to replace bank, an accounting tool, or your Stripe. We are plugging on top of that.
Somebody's asking, is there a free version that someone can use for test? Do you have a link to share?
Yeah, you can just go on recap, re-cap.com, create your account, sign up with a Google, Microsoft, or like create a normal account, and then you get a free trial phase where you can test out everything. No payment obligation, no dark patterns, no credit card needed before that. And then you can try everything out. There's also a lot of education and on how to use the platform available, or you can reach out to us.
Awesome. Finally, someone is asking, how is 9x using Recap right now? So
yeah,
we actually, we used it to move. We're trying to move away from the Airtable based solution that I've built, and the way that we actually are using a Recap is to consume. I think one of the big issues we were having in the past, and it was really difficult to build, is I think this is something which is like, common to a lot of people in Germany, but our accountant was not able to work with Stripe. And especially because Stripe is very difficult, because you have, let's say, you will have like 15 invoices because you're selling courses, but then Stripe will wire you the money for 15 of the transactions, and they will take out the fees. So on the invoices, you have 15 invoices with 1 amount, and then you get a money transfer, which is the sum of this transaction minus some fees. So there's no way that, and it's all written just Stripe. So there's like no way the accountant can realize, okay, what's that? And as the learning offer is actually growing at 9x, and we have people just buying like some of our courses online, this became a big problem. And it's something that is, it would be simple if my accountant could just go and log into Stripe, but it's just like, that's not the way they work. So I think that thing is one thing that really helped us, the ability to just also understand that, you have some data coming from Stripe that is revenue, but you need to map that to the internal transaction, because that's actually an internal transaction between Stripe and myself. These are two accounts which belong to me. So we're using this for that. The only thing that we're missing right now from Recap is it is very much done for people which are, looking mostly at their cash flow. And I'm still missing the P&L part. So I just want to have one little overwrite date that I can use, so I can actually just reallocate cash flows to specific dates where I want them to be accounted for, so that I can also switch to, okay, what's the P&L, what was last worked profitability? Because right now I can look at every month's evolution of the cash flow based profitability, but sometimes there's some, little thing that I want to spread out, or that's the only limitation I would see right now. But it is convenient to be able to enter my weekly meeting with my two co-founders. I just click on a button and say, hey guys, this is the current status of the bank account. This is how we evolved in the beginning of the month. That's where we plan things to be by the end of the month. And managing, this real-time cash flow forecasting, that's very convenient. So that's how we use it.
Yeah, very interesting. Like this, where I think our focus on tech companies comes in handy, because, for example, the Stripe problem, a lot of companies have, and they pay a huge amount of money every month to their tax advisor to like wrangle around with that data manually. And thus we, in that area, also automate things. We have, by the way, also a couple of free tools on the website to, for example, download all the invoice PDFs from your Stripe account, because this is also something that's just not possible. You can't, in the Stripe UI, download all your invoices that you send to customers. But there's like so much stuff to do that we are always catching up. But all your points definitely very valuable, and something we will tackle. And the question is just in which iteration step, so to say.
For sure. I'm really happy also about the upcoming data integration, because it's funny, but like first, what we really liked is to interact with my content, I can just download the CSV file, which is exactly the way he's used to work. He wants a CSV, and then all the files, all the invoices renamed, so that there's no way he can make a mistake. This is the date of the transaction, the name that is on the transaction, and then you have the documents, and you have a mapping for them. Next step is like you push that directly to DATEV, and then I can literally not even have to send that information. That'd be awesome.
Yeah. I have spent a lot of time trying to understand DATEV's approach to building APIs, and it's one of the most complex endeavors that I face to finally understand what works, what doesn't. But we are getting there, and as soon as we get new abilities to push and pull data into that, we will happily adapt them.
Awesome. Do you have any more questions? Feel free to ask a question in the chat. See a lot of people, agreeing with the fact that it would be good if a German tax advisory industry would upgrade to the current state of technology. Like it's they're not there on the cloud infrastructure. So let's see when there will be a first fully AI dedicated. I don't see any more questions. So I would say, Jonas, thank you very much for joining us today. Super insightful session. A lot of people gave good feedback already in the chat. So if you're interested with the product, make sure to just go to we-cap.com, and you can get a free trial there. And where can people find you, Jonas? Should they go and stalk you on LinkedIn? Is that the good place to see what's the next evolution in AI and finance ops is going to be?
Exactly. Yeah, everything we do, we'll share on LinkedIn. Of course, we have a newsletter, but those would be the two places where you find us.
Awesome. Thanks a lot for joining us today, Jonas. Have a good day and see you soon.
Thanks.
Bye.
Have a good evening. Bye-bye.